Black Lightning, Episode 2, Lawanda, the Book of Hope. Um, Kind of interesting that was the title of this episode. I didn't realize that until like right before doing the review. I was like, I don't even know, the name of this episode, and it was like, Book of Hope or the Book of Hope. I think it's just Book of Hope, maybe not the. But I was like, this is not a hopeful episode. This is actually like kind of a depressing episode. Like nothing as far as like the main story of like this is what's going on here with this woman looking for her daughter. None of that story came out happy. Like it wasn't even like the roundabout thing where it's like, oh man, she went in to try to find out what was going on with her daughter, and maybe Black Lightning comes in and saves the daughter, or saves the daughter, but the mother dies, and maybe the mother does die, but they at least find and save the daughter. None of that happened. It was like the dad died in war, the mom just gets blown away, which is a crazy scene because I didn't think Lala was just gonna be like screw it, and he just shot her like a couple of times. I was like, well, that's it. That wasn't like he's holding the gun on her like a threat and like I'm gonna shoot you, and then she keeps fighting, and then she gets shot. It was like nope. He's just like I just killed my cousin. You are nothing to me, and he just put her down. I was like, well, that was incredibly quick. And then, of course, that led to, Lala officially being busted as far as having the footage on the phone. But it was just surprising. I was like, okay, well, she died. And then nothing happened with the daughter. We still don't know if they ever found her daughter. There was nothing to that. It was just like that whole storyline was just depressing. It was like, well, she got killed. And we don't know if, anything ever happened because it became, it changed from, finding her daughter to getting revenge because she's dead. And they have a great moment where it's like they repeat the line from the first episode, like him having this delusional idea of like I've saved more people as a principal than I ever did as Black Lightning. I thought that was good that they kind of brought that back and they flipped it where it was like she's dead now. Like I always had this illusion where once they leave my school they go off to have like perfect lives and they kind of beat the system and get out of the community, that sort of thing. So I love the way they handled it. And you have this guy where that was the point of the first episode where it's like, all right, not Black Lightning, hey, save my daughters, that's it. And then it comes back in this episode, and the only thing that kind of sucks is like, man, I almost wanted to see that for maybe one or two more episodes, him kind of struggling. But there are only so many times where he could be like, nah, and then someone gets murdered just like this, and he's still kind of fighting where he does like one thing at a time. It's like no, someone, especially with the way they tied it in, where it was like an old student that he had, and he was trying to look for her daughter, and then um she gets killed, and then stuff like that. So it makes sense to kind of just get things going. Obviously, we know he's gonna come back too, so it's almost like why bother kind of wasting time. It's like nope, let's just episode 2, he's officially back as Black Lightning. But I love the way they did it. I thought it was pretty awesome. Still kind of getting used to character names, so sorry if I don't remember like anyone's names. But I love the way they did it. Him going in, we have our sequence of him going up the hotel, and he's just beating everybody up. He's just like the way they use lightning powers in the show. I actually think is kind of cool because he does like whip lightning, and he's grabbing people or paralyze people and stuff. And him being shot, he can block the bullets. The sequence where he's like going up the stairs, I thought was cool because I think they changed the effects. If you go back to the first episode where he's fighting people, the effects for when he hits them, they don't look the same as they do in this episode because they look kind of more like concussive hits. They kind of just look like just little circle waves kind of going out. But in this, it was like actual like sparks going off, and I was like, okay, that looks better because it, unless I was seeing it wrong, the effects were definitely different in the first episode than this one. So I thought that was cool. I was like, all right, I like that. It's legitimately like sparks flying off of his hands every time he hits somebody. He was beating the crap out of some of those people. There's a part, I think it's the last person he beats up on the stairs. He kicks the guy in the face. They don't really focus on it, but when he kicks him, there's blood that like splatters on the wall and stuff when he kicks him, and he like spits blood out. I was like, they didn't focus on it, but he kicked the crap out of him, and blood just like shot out of his mouth. So I was like, okay, I got a nice little intense moment there. And he goes in and he's about to beat up Lala, and then the cops show up, and that's when it's like, okay, Black Lightning is officially back because he's like, it's been a long time. And so he hops off the building. I was really hoping we'd get to see him, because we kind of saw it in the last episode where he drops off the motel ceiling or the roof, and he slows himself down. I kind of wanted to see that, but with like actual lightning, because he was so high up, he would have to use more power to do it. I was like, I kind of wanted to see him do that where he has to like discharge a bunch of lightning to slow himself down, and then he lands safely. I thought that would have been a really cool effect, but maybe we'll see that down the line when they figure out exactly how they want to show it. But I was like, man, I would love to see that. And then it kind of just went to the cops arresting Lala. So I was like, I thought we were gonna get a cool sequence, but still thought that was awesome. The whole villain storyline kind of surprised me. I did not think they would kill Lala at the end of this episode. I thought he was gonna be I thought we'd actually have like our main villain and our secondary villain. It's kind of how most shows go. You always have the person on top, and then you have the person that you always see, like the face of the villains, and then like the main villain. That's I think that's how a lot of the best shows do it. So it was like, all right, well, you have Lala is this character who's the guy that we see all the time, and then you have I'll say Wales, um, Tobias Well, I think is his name, the crazy harpoon guy. So we have like our main villain, and he's up at the top, and I was like, okay, I like this dynamic. I like both the characters honestly because they're you have the more grounded character, then you got a dude who has piranhas and harpoons who just hanging harpoon gun behind his desk. So it's like definitely different levels of villainy there. And it was like, all right, well, let's see where things go with Lala. He kills his cousin. He kills this woman, and then he dies at the end because he got busted. He got flipped on, and then it's like, all right, well, you killed this woman. You killed your mother, and a man who does that, has nothing to live for. And it's like, if you got nothing to live for, you could be a rat. And he just gets choked out, and he's murdered in his jail cell. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know if that means we're gonna see our main villain a whole lot more, or if we should expect a new villain to come, like a new secondary villain, because he has like, I think he has two people. He went in with the woman, but I was pretty sure there was a woman and a man that are always kind of around him. But he went in and was like, okay, well, he's our main villain. She's like this. I don't know. She might have like some superpower. Who knows what's gonna happen? There's always like the mysterious, right hand person who never says or does anything, and then it turns out they're like insanely powerful. So we might not see that for a long time. But I was like, all right, well, they killed the dude who I thought was going to be like, the face of the villains for the season. And then he would kind of report to our main villain. So we'd get updates on what, maybe some overarching story and, what's going on with him. I was like, nope, killed the face of the villain. So they're changing faces to either the main villain or we're getting a brand new secondary villain in the next episode. So I'm super curious how that's going to play out because we still have this concept of, excuse me, the main villain having this attachment to Black Lightning, which I think they kind of made it official in this episode that um, with the way, however, their last fight went, I think that Black Lightning actually thinks he killed this guy because there was something he said, and I wish I could remember because I did watch it on Tuesday, but with my job, I can't ever review anything until Thursday. But there was a line in this episode where he said something, and I was like, they make it. It seems like he actually believes that he killed this guy, and I thought that was really interesting because I was like, very interesting because like I mentioned in the first episode, he talked about like, the last time I did it was to get revenge for this guy actually killing my father. And I was like, so he did it to get revenge, but he didn't kill the guy, and the guy's not in prison. And the way he said it wasn't like, I did that to, get rid of him, and then he still got out anyway. Like they didn't have any of that extra stuff. It's almost like he believes he killed this guy, and he has no clue that he's still around, kind of pulling the strings. So I don't know if that's gonna get revealed like in the next episode or anything, because there seems like a lot of stuff is going to be going on in the next one. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out with that reveal because I feel like that's what they're kind of teasing, where it's like little lines here and there. I'm like, I don't think he knows he didn't actually get that guy. Like he's the same villain is still the same villain that he always was, even more powerful. I'm assuming at this point. So I think that's interesting. But I like the way they handled the storyline. Like I said, I'm super curious where they're headed with that as far as who's going to be the face of the villains now, what they're going to do with the main villain, if he's just going to be in the show more, or what's going to happen there. Once again, I mentioned this for the for the premiere. There's definitely a moment in here where I was like, I'm pretty sure they're like, yep, and let's just put nigga here. Oh, on the CW, let's just cross that out because the scene where Will was like, let's squeeze these darkies and stuff. I was like, what in the world? Like some of the stuff they say is just so funny. It's like so ridiculous and over the top. Sometimes it just makes me laugh. But he said that, and Lala was like, man, you really don't like black people. And he was like, he went through all this stuff. It's like thick lipped and gangster this and sagging pants. And I was like, they just wanted to put it in there, but it's like, we can't say nigga on CW. And I know they want, like, there's almost one section. So far, it's been the main villain, but so far there's at least one section per episode where it's like, they wanted to say that, but they know they can't on the CW. And I feel like they get super close at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they just made up a fake word and it's like, yeah, this is N word for us, so we just throw it in there. And it's like, that wouldn't surprise me because I'm like, I know every time they write the script, it's like, CW just can't put that in there. So every time they have someone like get super mad, it's like I know that's what they would have put in there if this was like on cable or something like that. Because that's just like, especially the way the characters are speaking, that it's like when they have racist characters on CW shows. Legends of Tomorrow is a perfect example. They go back in time, and Jefferson, or Jax, who's like the black character on the show, or one of them, he'll go back in time and has to deal with some racist people, and they stick with boy, which was another funny thing in this episode that they kind of referenced. But they say boy and stuff. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of other words they can't say because this is the CW. So it's really funny. I think of that all the time with this show, but I really like the way they handled everything. And like I said, looking forward to what they do with the villains. And then, of course, on the hero side of things, naturally, Black Lightning is back, and they go through the emotional struggle of that and how he was so close to getting back with his wife, but that's not going to happen because and I like how they have this moment where he feels like, it could be different this time. The girls are older, they're more self-sufficient, stuff like that. And it's like, no, that's, it's not just about the girls. It's you sacrificing yourself and, leaving this family, that sort of thing. So I like how they kind of played around with that. They also, they also throw in like the beautiful little moment of exposition with his ex-wife where I never even thought about it, but she was just like, as a neurosurgeon, I was like, there it is. All right, that's a little bit of exposition for her character, so that'll come into play somehow with her being a neurosurgeon. But I was like, okay, that was something I wasn't even thinking about. Like, what's his wife do? I'm just like, this dude has lightning powers. I'm more interested in that. But it was super funny because it was like, as a neurosurgeon, I know everything about the brain. I was like, that's some slick exposition there. So I thought that was pretty funny. But, things don't really work out. He thought that they could be different, and she's like, they can't be. If you're Black Lightning, it will not work, period. And I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it, where he was so hopeful that with all the time that's passed and how bad things have gotten as of late, especially, with the specific case of this episode, it's like, maybe it could be different. Maybe we can still be together and you accept that I'm Black Lightning and it's okay. It's like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. So it's like, well, that sucks, but I think we kind of saw that coming. And they actually have a cool moment with his ex-wife, and we'll go with the old mentor character. I'm going to call him Ajax. I'm going to be honest because, like I mentioned, he's the Warriors. I'm always saying Ajax. So if I ever say Ajax, it's the dude it's the Taylor. The Taylor. But they had a cool moment where they interact and they talk about how, they kind of blamed each other for him either becoming Black Lightning or going back to being, currently Black Lightning, or, stopping him, because you have the Taylor where he's like, so many people. He could have saved so many people. He was, they talk about that addiction. It's like he was addicted to that, and then he was addicted to you, and he stopped saving people. So many people were lost because he stopped and he became, a family man. And that's not, what this town needs. Like, with him being gone, that's where all this resurgence of crime really has come from. So they have their little moment. It didn't get as heated as I thought it would, because I thought for sure they would be like really arguing, but they're both like, they're kind of like me when I argue with people, where it's like, I'm super calm and it's like, don't like what you said, but it ultimately, especially when it's like someone else's decision, it's like, kind of mad at you, but ultimately it's their choice. And it's like, I just want you to know I'm a little upset with you, you're upset with me, meh. And then it kind of just ended. I was like, oh, that was actually super calm, for that argument. It was a very serious matter, but they're two grown adults and they did it real calm. And I was like, I kind of thought that was cool, because they were definitely mad, but it was like, it's the few versus the many. It was just an interesting little moment where I was like, it's an argument, but it was a very calm one. So I like how that played out. Of course, the final big story of this episode, naturally, is Thunder. That's going to be her superhero name. She's going through the episode trying to figure out what in the world is going on with me. I broke the sink. She's talking to her girlfriend, which I thought was super funny, because I feel like they always do this in TV shows where people get like superpowers. And I'm like, see, this is how you get, caught, 3 seasons down the line. You're just saying this random stuff like, yeah, I went to pee and then I just broke the sink with my bare hands. It's like, that's how you get busted 3 seasons down the line, when your ex becomes like it's one of the super villains, and they'd be like, I know exactly who you are because you randomly mentioned you broke a sink with your bare hands. Plus, well, it's a superhero show, so nobody ever knows anyone from their actual full face showing. And I'm like, that's how you get busted. But everything seemed to be cool. I don't think her girlfriend is gonna end up, excuse me, being a villain, later down the line. But I love the way, they kind of handled it by the end of the episode. Because at first I was getting mad because I was like, every superhero show ever does the same thing. Excuse me. I'm kind of sick, so sorry about all the coughing and pausing. But every show does the same thing, where it's like, okay, I suddenly have superpowers, and it works when it's a show where suddenly one person has superpowers. Like, this has never been a thing. Just poof, I have powers. What's going on? Where did this come from? How did this happen? But then you have superhero shows where it's like, I have superpowers. Like, if someone will break, an entire sink, the first thing I would think, and, this is just for me living in a world where we watch superhero shows. If I had superpowers, the first thing I would think is, I have superpowers. maybe one of my parents has superpowers. And I feel like there needs to be a show where that's like the first thought. And she's telling her girlfriend like, oh, it's this, and of course, the other person never believes him. It's like, oh, shoddy, workmanship and stuff like that. And then it gets to the end where she's like, I just can't sleep, and then she gets held up. She's walks, she's in the store and there's a robbery, and the guy puts the gun on her, and she freaks out, and she grabs him and launches him, and then she just was like, oh, I got superpowers, and she puts the pills down and was like, and she walks out, and I was like, that was the perfect ending for how they did that, because it was kind of like the super long stretched out version condensed to just one episode, because it's always like, I don't understand these powers, I don't get this, and then they're like, oh, that super insanely obvious thing. Once again, they're living in a world with other superheroes. That super obvious thing of, oh crap, I might be, whatever they would term it, because they always say metahuman, but technically this isn't like on the same Earth as Flash and Arrow and stuff. So I don't know if they just say metahuman or whatever in this universe. They'll probably do the same thing, but I got powers. I'm a metahuman. I'm somehow an alien. I'm Kryptonian. Whatever random thing they want to say. It's like, that should be the first thing people think, but it never is. It's always like a million, days later, and it's like, oh, I have superpowers. I'm this. And at the end, it was just like, oh, I have superpowers. She realized it all in the span of one episode. She tossed a dude, and he flew a couple miles over, and it's like, superpowers. It's like, well, I'm out of here. Thanks. And then she just leaves. So I don't know if she's going to assume that her dad has powers as well. I don't know if that's something that they'll touch on. I would love for them to touch on that, because we haven't had that in any of the like the DC shows on CW yet, whereas it is actually from person to person through their actual bloodline. Every show has been, oh, I got superpowers because of this event. Typically, every person on either Flash or Arrow or Legends of Tomorrow, it's all because of the explosion in the Flash. Like, that's how we got metahumans. So that's how people have powers, or it's magic, or they're from the future, or they're like this or that, or demon or whatever. So most of those cases, it's always it's because of the Flash. The explosion caused metahumans. So in this case, it's like, all right, we have this woman who suddenly realizes she has superpowers. I want to see her ask her dad, like, hey, random question, go to both her parents, like, was there ever anything in our family that was a little weird? And she tries to be coy about it, and of course her dad would be like, why is she suddenly asking about superpowers? So I want to see that interaction. I hope they do that. I would love to see it in the next episode, because like I said, by the end she instantly was like, oh, I got superpowers, this is actually great, and she took off. So I'm like, all right, I want to see how she deals with this now that she is she's fully accepted it by the end of the episode. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, and I was so happy that it wasn't this super, like I said, it's always this drawn out thing where it's like, I just don't understand this, I don't know what's happening, I feel crazy. It's like, no, you have superpowers, you understand you have powers. One episode to be freaked out, to figuring it out, and now we can move on. And I was like, sweet, because that normally takes like half a season for people, because that's just how people write TV, to drag stuff out. So I was so happy, like, all right, one episode, beginning of the episode, she's freaked out, end of the episode, she figured it out, and now we get to move on to the next step in that. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out, her understanding more of her ability. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But all in all, great episode. Definitely looking forward to episode 3. Naturally, want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I want to know your theories for how things are going to play out as far as both our heroes and our villains. Who is going to be the face of the villains? Is it just going to be Will? Is he just taking over? Or are we going to get like a new secondary villain? We'd love to know how you guys think things are going to go for, and I wish I could remember the name, but obviously the oldest daughter, and how she's going to go forward becoming a superhero and possibly teaming up with her dad. I assume that that's going to be this season, because they already, there's posters and stuff of her being Thunder. So I don't know if she's going to do her own thing and then find out that her dad is Black Lightning, or if she'll just be like, hey, I got powers, which would be really cool if she was just like, I got superpowers, check this out. And then her dad was just like, come over here, we should talk. So I would love it if they just did it like that. I don't think they'll do that in the next episode, but I would love it if it was that simple, just like, check this out, superpowers. And then he's like, crap, well, come here, I got superpowers too. So we'd love to know how you guys think that's going to play out. But of course, like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.